Have you ever felt completely stuck? Like you're trying so hard to change a habit, maybe starting a good one or dropping a bad one, but you just keep ending up right back where you started? Well, you are definitely not alone. We tend to think that making a real difference requires some huge, dramatic, life-altering event. But what if the real secret to getting incredible results is actually doing something tiny? So let's just dive right in with this massive idea from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. A 1% improvement. I mean, that sounds like almost nothing, right? It's so small you'd barely even notice it. But just look at what happens when that tiny improvement gets to compound, day after day. Yeah, 37 times better. Let that sink in for a second. This isn't just simple math, 1 plus 1 plus 1. This is the incredible, almost magical power of compounding. Just like interest growing in a savings account, your tiny efforts start to build on themselves, leading to this kind of explosive exponential growth. And that is the whole idea behind what James Clear calls atomic habits. They're changes so small, so atomic, that they almost seem insignificant on their own. But their combined power is anything but. So in this breakdown, we're going to dig into how you can actually use this power, and we're going to start by busting a huge myth about what it takes to succeed. We've all done it, right? We convince ourselves that to get these massive results, lose a bunch of weight, write a whole book, launch a business, we have to take some kind of massive, heroic action. But what if that all or nothing mindset is the very thing that's been holding you back? I mean, look at the difference. Massive action sounds impressive, but more often than not, it's just a fast track to burnout. Focusing on small, marginal gains, though, that's where you find real sustainable growth. A perfect example is the British cycling team. For the better part of 100 years, they were just, okay, nothing special. Then a new coach came in and started a strategy of improving absolutely everything by just 1%. We're talking about the bike seats, the massage gels, the pillows the riders slept on, and the result? They became totally dominant in the sport. That's the 1% rule in the real world. But let's be real. Why does it so often feel like our efforts aren't paying off in the beginning? It's because of this really fascinating concept called the plateau of latent potential. It feels like you're not making progress, but you are. Your work is actually building up, just beneath the surface, kind of like pressure building up before a huge breakthrough. You just haven't crossed that critical line. Yet. It reminds me of that old parable about the stonecutter. He hammers away at a giant rock 100 times, and nothing. Not a single crack. Then, bam, on the 101st hit, it splits right in two. The crucial thing to realize is that it wasn't that last hit that did the job. It was all 100 hits that came before it. Your efforts aren't being wasted, they're being stored. Okay, so if breakthroughs are really the result of all that consistent effort, how do we actually stay consistent? Well, this brings us to a really important shift in thinking. It's about taking our eyes off the finish line and focusing instead on the path we're walking on. Look, we all set goals, like running a marathon, but the goal is just the result you want. A system is the process that gets you that result, like, say, a system of never missing a workout. And here's the really mind-blowing part. Winners and losers in life often have the exact same goals. The thing that separates them isn't the goal, it's the system they use. A goal tells you where to go, but it's the system that actually moves you forward. All right, so systems are the key. We get it. But how in the world do you build a system that you'll actually stick with, especially when that initial burst of motivation wears off? Well, the answer is to change something that runs much, much deeper than just your day-to-day actions. It all boils down to your identity. See, real, lasting behavior change isn't about what you want to achieve, it's about who you want to become. The goal isn't just to read a book. The goal is to become a reader. The process is simple. First, you decide on the type of person you want to be. And second, you start proving that identity to yourself, one small win at a time. Just check out this example. You have two people who are trying to quit smoking. Someone offers them a cigarette. The first person says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." Their identity is still wrapped up in being a smoker who's struggling. The second person says, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." Do you feel that difference? That simple change in words signals a massive change in identity, and that's what makes the new habit stick for good. So how do we actually go about building these new identity-based systems? This is where it gets really practical. James Clear gives us a kind of operating manual for our brains, a simple but incredibly powerful framework he calls the 4 laws of behavior change. But first, you have to understand the engine that drives literally every habit you have, good or bad. It's a simple 4-step pattern called the habit loop. It starts with a cue, which is the trigger. That leads to a craving for some kind of change. Then comes the response, which is the actual habit. And finally, you get a reward, which satisfies that craving. To change your habits, you have to learn how to manipulate this loop. And that loop gives us this beautiful, simple set of rules. To build a good habit, you need to make the cue obvious, make the craving attractive, make the response easy, and make the reward satisfying. And what about breaking a bad habit? You just do the exact opposite. Make it invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying.
Now, that all sounds great, but it can still feel a bit abstract. So where do you start? Like, what can you do right now, today, to put this into motion? Well, the answer is way, way smaller than you're probably thinking.
This is the 2-minute rule, and honestly, it's a total game changer. The rule is simple. When you start any new habit, it has to take less than 2 minutes to perform. Why? Because the point isn't to achieve your ultimate goal on day one. The point is to master the art of just showing up. So your new habit isn't run 3 miles. It's put on my running shoes. Your new habit isn't read for an hour before bed. It's read 1 page. The whole idea is to make the starting point so ridiculously easy that it's almost impossible to say no. You have to lower the barrier to entry. The rest of the habit will follow naturally once you've started. And here's why that is so powerful. You cannot improve a habit that doesn't exist. You have to establish it first. Doing 1 push-up is infinitely better than doing 0 exercise. Practicing guitar for 1 minute is way better than not practicing at all. The goal is just to get the reps in and not let the day end with a 0. When you boil it all down, that's the real secret. You start incredibly small. You prove your new identity to yourself with these tiny, easy wins. And then you just let the amazing power of compound interest do the rest of the work for you. So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. What is one habit you can start in just 2 minutes that will move you 1% closer to the person you truly want to be?